what's up guys, Benny here, and I've put together 27 tips to help make you better at Call of Duty Warzone instantly. We played this map for thousands of hours during lockdown, but with the return of Verdansk, a lot has changed that you need to be taking advantage of to do the best that you possibly can. So whether you're returning to Warzone, playing for the first time, or a veteran, this video is going to have something for everyone. But let's hop into our first tip. Now, my first tip is super important. You need to be doing contracts right from the start of the game. Every contract you complete not only gets you cash, but your contract multiplier increases, meaning that any contracts that you do later in the game will earn you even more money. I'd recommend starting the game with a scavenger near your favorite drop. First player grabs a contract, then have your teammates land on the crates, and it will be done super quickly. In quads, this will also get you enough cash to buy an instant loadout and give you an early advantage. Next, you're going to want to make sure that you run tempered, because with the amount of plates that you carry being drastically reduced to 5 or 8, if you manage to find a plate vest, you'll find yourself running out of plates a lot. So run tempered. Which brings me onto the next tip. As you're not running Ghost, you'll always be visible on enemy players' minimaps if they pop a UAV. So for that reason, keep an eye on your minimap, and if there is a red outline, you need to slow your gameplay down, because you do not want to be caught out in the open if someone knows your exact location, unless of course you have your own UAV up, or you're going to have a quick trip to the gulag. A mistake a lot of players make is not using all the information on their minimap properly. Red dots are obviously super important, with a solid red dot meaning you're on the same floor as them, but if there's an arrow on top of the red dot, they're above you, and an arrow underneath means they're below you, which will help you find enemy players so much easier. But also, try to pay attention to other key information, like contracts or vehicles. If a contract disappears on your minimap or tac map, you know an enemy player is going to be there. It's something every top player does, so start doing it. Next, always try and get the high ground in a gunfight. With Verdansk not having redeploy balloons or PRDs, it is very difficult for a player to land on top of you. So if you're able to get on a roof, especially those sloped roofs around the map, it is almost impossible for an enemy player to be able to push you. But always make sure your back is clear, because you can be exposed from behind without that roof cover, which could end up with you getting killed pretty easily. Which is why it is extremely important to play the dead side of the zone, which is the area of the map that is least likely going to have a lot of players in it. So be less likely for someone to shoot you in the back. And if you're trying to figure out the dead side of the zone, that's normally the zone edge that doesn't have the big area of players collapsing in, which can make things a little bit congested and hard to come out alive. Another way to be sure what parts of the map have a lot of players and what areas are safe is to pop an advanced UAV, which is going to cost you a lot at 18k, as you need to use 3 UAVs. But this is the most powerful thing in the game and can help you get the best position to win. Whenever you pop one, look at your tac map and try and take a mental snapshot of where everyone is, because you can then figure out where players are going to be rotating from a long time after the advanced UAV is finished. This next tip is something that has drastically improved my game recently, and that's when I'm being pushed or chased by multiple players, is to hold my irons. Now, what I mean by this is when a team is being aggressive towards you, the best way for you to win is to get round a corner and then pre-aim the push, because they will be coming and it will allow you to always get the first shots off. This is especially important if you're outnumbered. Get that first knock, then disengage instantly and replate. You don't need to go for your finish right away. You're better off using that body as bait and making your opponent make a decision. Now, my next couple of tips are all about helping you move around the map better, because if you've played the last couple of years, you'll have been flying around with balloons and PRDs, which are no longer available. So yes, you need to use vehicles and one in particular is pretty overpowered: the LTV. It has fantastic protection, great mobility and speed, which you can use to aggressively push opponents or to take power positions on the map. But whenever you're playing Warzone, you always want to try and keep a vehicle nearby for those big open rotations. If you're on foot, it can sometimes be pretty tough, especially if there are snipers on the high ground. But try and get a vehicle early on. One thing you can also do with vehicles is use them as a distraction or bait, because like we mentioned earlier, most players will play off their minimap. So if you drop your teammate off at a hill, for example, but then continue to drive past the enemies, they will most likely track the vehicle, as it's always visible on the minimap and is also making a lot of noise, allowing your teammate to get some easy shots in from behind, which will win you fights before the enemy knows what's going on. Also, when driving, make sure you make the most of your third-person camera. This allows you to peek over hilltops and spot enemy players that you wouldn't otherwise. It's also a great way to line up running someone over when they think they're safe. But also, make sure to clearly communicate with your teammates what you're doing, because they will still all be in first person. And for that reason, always make sure you're live pinging, because even if you've not got the best comms, this will give your teammates an exact location of enemy players. But it can also allow you to better track enemy movement, so you can have a better chance of winning any gunfight that you end up in. Next, make sure that you're using Verdansk terrain to your advantage. Verdansk terrain offers a lot more potential to dip into cover and reposition with the use of the dips and the hills, which other maps haven't really had, so it lets you reposition really nicely and allows you to take new angles to catch your opponent off guard. Whenever you're moving around the map, just be aware of the area around you and what routes you could take to make it so power positions don't have a clean line of sight on you. Even leaves from a tree can make it difficult for an enemy to spot you. If you're playing with your squad and find yourself needing to regain after a wipe, I cannot recommend enough doing supply run contracts. It does require two of you to be able to do this effectively, but one person grabs the contract when coming back from the gulag and the other dive bombs the buy station. You'll be able to buy a teammate back for free and get a decent amount of cash, making full squad regains easily possible. Even if there's enemies nearby and it's certain death, this can still pay off, as you'll get your squad cash up and potentially multiple buys thanks to that new buy all feature, where you can press X or square to buy everyone back, with whoever has the most cash coming back first. Next, when you can, make sure someone in your squad carries a heartbeat sensor. This is especially broken in solos because it will just allow you to know exactly where an enemy is in front of you, or if someone is hiding around a corner that you wouldn't have otherwise expected. They now last for 120 seconds of use, so try switch it out whenever you see a new one, so it doesn't run out. Also, one of our favorite tricks is back from the original Warzone. If you find a trophy system, make sure to stick it on the roof of your car. It will stop players being able to destroy it with rockets or grenades, which is going to save your life. One of the biggest movement tricks that you can learn to help you get around Verdansk better is the dive jump. If you sprint, then dive, and then pull your chute, you will be able to travel further. This can allow you to cross over to other buildings or jump into a window to pull off a flank that an enemy may not expect, or to allow you to get a power position yourself to hold incoming enemies. It is something that you want to make sure that you're doing. One of the biggest things you're going to want to master with Verdansk is Omni movement. Yes, it has been massively tuned down compared to Black Ops 6 multiplayer, but learning how to use backwards and sideways slides to make yourself harder to hit and gain an advantage in a gunfight is crucial. Try getting used to the distance that you slide so you know you can jump and slide into cover to break line of sights on your opponent, so you can then hold your irons like we talked about earlier to win the gunfight. Also, that backward slide is the best way to widen an angle on a corner view, so your opponent is forced to come further around the corner, making them an easier kill. Now, this is a simple tip, but so important. Make sure you listen and learn audio cues. It's not always about just enemy footsteps, but what type of steps they are. Are they running on metal or grass? Because as you learn the map, you'll be able to know exactly where an opponent is because of the audio that you're hearing. Glass breaking, the opening of a door, all will help you make better decisions. And if you're not already, wear a headset. It makes it a lot easier to pinpoint the direction of enemy footsteps. And if you're not sure which one to get, check out my partner's HyperX down in the description below. Another big tip I really want you to nail when playing Warzone is you need to work on your centering as much as you can. Constantly be thinking where your crosshairs are placed when moving around the map. They should always be where you think someone is most likely going to be coming from. At no point should you just be aiming at the floor. If you're going up a hill, have your crosshairs aimed towards the top, as that's where someone is going to be. This is especially important with how many hills and potential locations enemies can be on Verdansk, so practice your centering. With the return of Verdansk, snipers are also back. If you enjoy using a sniper, they are incredibly powerful once again. With the HDR one-shotting at any range, and with the Kar 98K also being another powerful option, one-shotting up to around 120 meters. But it also means you need to be aware of that threat. You always want to keep moving because if you stand still, it's an easy shot for an enemy sniper to hit. So constantly change your head height by jumping and sliding and making the most out of Omni movement. Another huge tip for you when playing Warzone is whenever you're taking fights, do what you can to pick up as many angles as possible with your squad. Make it so your opponent doesn't have many options. We've all been there when you're stuck behind a rock and you just accept that you're dead. Well, you want to make enemies feel like that even when they're in a building. And that's also why you want to make sure you're using the gas to your advantage. Sometimes it will just force enemies to run straight at you or have to cross it in the open, giving you an easy opportunity to pick up some quick kills. So when you can, try and make sure you always stay zone side. Something else I've started doing a lot more to improve my own Warzone game is to have strong trigger discipline. You don't want to shoot unless you know you're going to be able to pick up the kill, especially if they don't know you're there. If someone is thinking about running out of a building or across an open space, wait till they won't have enough time to go back on themselves and get behind cover to start shooting. Also, pretty much all of the original jump spots from Verdansk still work, so make sure to take advantage of them when you can. There are too many to be able to cover in this video, but let me know if it's something you'd like me to cover more depth in the future. But jump spots genuinely win you games on Verdansk. Another quick tip to help you get better at Warzone is when moving around the map, make sure to pull out your knife so you have infinite tac sprint without needing to use the sprinter perk. Also, with the amount of stair fights that you'll have on Verdansk, you're going to want to run impact grenades. This is something I've used non-stop in ranked play, and they are just ridiculously overpowered alongside gas grenades, to be perfectly honest with you, which should just be removed from the game. But when holding a staircase or doorway, just have the impact ready to throw, shoulder your cover as you throw it, and then push when you see the armor crack. You'll win 90% of engagements that you get into against someone pushing you. But these are 27 tips to help make you a better player. I'll be sure to bring a lot more content to help improve your game, so subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.